Hello and welcome into the Section 109 podcast from Studio Breezy. S's sure are difficult to say for me this morning as I got a crown put on if you're watching on video right here. And I have to go back later this afternoon. And I am full of lidocaine or whatever that local anesthetic is called. But nothing is going to kill my vibes and kill my happiness, Matthew. I'm Breezy. This is Sir Mix-a-Lot. That's Bobble Juan. And this is Matthew. And we are here to talk about a road win, Matthew. 3 points against Nashville, too. How are you feeling?
I'm really, really good, honestly. Despite their record, I think, Huntsville only picked up 3 points on the year.
Who's Huntsville?
All of those are draws. They've lost all the shootouts they've been in as well.
Ouch.
I mean, it's just a brutal start for them, which is wild because I guess after 6 games, 3 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses, 3 draws, because you can't call them a good team, but that's a really good group of players. And going into their place, our first time playing in front of, I mean, there was a small crowd at the New York City away game, but it was a much more normal lower division crowd in Huntsville.
Yeah, there's probably 1,500 people there, 1,400, something like that.
Yeah, I think the excuses ranged from prom to weather, but whatever. That's a normal lower division crowd. Let's not kid ourselves here.
No, it's actually pretty good for lower divisions.
And
Nisa would kill for that.
Yeah, so would League One for that matter. And I just think going into that environment, the league's trying to push this to become a derby. There's a name for it now, which we don't sanction.
What's the marketing name?
The Tennessee River Derby. Which is funny because the city limits of Huntsville, barely touch the river in one spot. But whatever. It's fine. I mean, you couldn't even think of Highway 72 Derby, which I guess also doesn't touch Chattanooga. Whatever. It's not the point. The point is, going into that, playing a road game, playing a close road game against, a team that is our closest competitor, depending on, how traffic is on I-75 for Kennesaw. That's a team that just fired their coach. There are a couple games into doing things differently because the old way wasn't working. It's getting 3 points out of that, especially when we didn't play that great. Just absolutely massive. And you think about it, we're 5 games in now into the league. We're sitting on 12 points, 3 wins, 2 draws, a penalty shootout win to get an extra point in there.
Penalty shootout point?
Sure, whatever.
I don't know what to call those still.
To get us that, get us that 12th point. We're 12 points out of 15, and we're 2 games now into post second preseason, and obviously we've talked about on this podcast the challenges that this team has faced, getting players into practice and going through all of that in for year one in the league. And it's hard to argue that it's been anything other than an unqualified success so far. And despite not, playing particularly that well, we can talk about that, and not creating a ton of chances and whatever else.
I think
we still walk out of there.
You're more negative on this game than I am on how we played.
We still walk out of there with a late goal, 3 points, and a clean sheet.
Yeah, I think you are more negative about how we played than I am. Going back and watching the highlights, going through my memories, which are a little hit or miss with capoing and whatever else. First of all, great turnout for us. It was really fun. Good group, packed in real tight, pretty loud. So yeah, it was good from that. I think we played better than you think we played. I think we just didn't play as good as we played against Miami. And I think that's down to a little bit of how Huntsville played.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of it is down to how Huntsville played, not necessarily. when you play against a pretty open team like Miami, like they'll want to have the ball, they'll want to do some stuff with it, they'll leave some gaps, whatever. It just gives you space for your skill players to go make plays. When you play a team like Huntsville, it reminded me a lot of playing Michigan Stars, or Flower City, or some of those other teams in NISA that we were used to, that wouldn't come out and press us because it wasn't worth it to them, but never wanted to give us anything. Wanted to make every single pass forward difficult and contested. And their keeper, Nashville's third keeper, has been Martino. He's played in both games against us now. Their keeper was playing extremely high line to prevent us from going over the top or in behind. I guess in behind over the top. So that the lines were really compressed. And they just made it difficult for us to play through. And, when you want to have the ball, as we do, it's on us to figure that out and to play through it and to make them adjust to your game, to forcefully make them submit. So we could have done a little bit better of a job there. At the same, in the same sort of way, we went through the first 25 minutes of the first half with 80% possession. Huntsville had none of the game in their own building, which was good. The downside of that is,
as it should be,
we also gave the ball away a couple times, and our defense was good enough to handle it, to clean up, to make sure nothing was an issue there. I think both teams ended up having like maybe one shot on goal, maybe combined in the first half. Like there really wasn't a lot in the game. And I think Huntsville was just fine with that. And I think we were too, because we also kept some of their skill players like Bolaños just off the ball in the first half. And there were some nervy moments in there, but we mostly fine, don't have to worry about it. Second half is where this game gets interesting, because our possession, I think we ended up with 67% possession in the first half. Our possession percentage in the second half dropped. I think it ended up being around 55 or so, something like that. And the overall, it was 60, 61, 62, somewhere in there for the game. Our possession percentage dropped, but we were able to get deeper more often. And by deeper, I mean we were able to get our wingers on the edge of the box. We were able to get Mehdi on the ball a little bit on the edge of the box. We were getting into more dangerous places than Huntsville was for a lion's share of that second half. And you can kind of feel the game progressing just a little bit further and a little bit further, and getting a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer.
One of the differences from last year is that when we horseshoed last year and just kept possession, a lot of times we weren't getting touches in the box. In this game, even when we weren't getting dangerous shots, or a lot of our shots were blocked. If you go back and watch the 90 and 15, we had some shots and some good shots, but they're blocked. And to be fair, we blocked a bunch of their shots as well.
Yeah.
But we're in the box, getting shots in the box, working our way around the 18-yard box when we're horseshoeing a little bit more than last year. So I think you still see an evolution, and it's less hopeless. Because there was times last year where there was we're just going to hold the ball and never score.
Yeah.
And I think we were still making moves. We were still penetrating with the fullbacks. We were still getting touches in the box, which could have led to something. We just weren't getting those big chances that we saw against Inter Miami. And
I think it was a little bit less on the fullbacks occasionally got into the box. But that's not necessarily JP's game, and it's really not Milo's game when he's playing right back. But Jalen and then Jesus and Taylor, once Taylor replaced him, were getting into some high leverage moments on occasion. And we would keep possession for a little bit, but there was usually an overlap and a ball coming down that oftentimes was being blocked for a corner. So that's a good sign. One of the things that I think changed the game for the better for us, I think it hurt us a little bit after we actually got the goal and had to defend like hell for 15 minutes. Was pulling Jude Arthur, who made his CFC debut, his first start for us. who I thought had a really good game in 68 minutes, moving Aaron Zazu back to the 6 and playing Callum Watson in one of the 10 positions with Alex McGrath. I thought that gave us more of an offensive push because now, like, you had Alex making the late run or an early run, but you also had another center midfielder, an attack-minded center midfielder nearby. And spoiler alert, those are the two that combined for the goal. I thought at times, number one, this helped us keep possession and keep control of the game in the first half for sure. But at times, I thought we were a little too safe with both Jude and Andres playing. And I think you see that in our first half possession completion numbers, which was 90%.
Rod wants to be at 90.
I know that. But sometimes, especially against a team that is trying to sit in, there's a fine line between keeping the ball all the time with like ridiculously high possession stats and where some of the elite teams are, which is closer to like 86, because they're taking a little bit of a chance here and there, whether it's a through ball or something that like has a lower percentage chance of working out, but when it does, it creates a very high statistical scoring opportunity. It's a fine line to work with. And I wonder if we were just a little bit too safe.
Mixing.
And that move to bring on Callum was to hopefully try to get a more dangerous opportunity. And it comes from a Callum through ball in behind for Alex McGrath, the goal. And it wasn't the only one. Jesus, right before he was taken off, I think had a nice opportunity on a half volley that he forced the keeper to make a save on. But all of those moments were us taking a little bit more of the game, and finally, it kind of comes out of nothing. It's a goal kick from the keeper, and instead of playing like long towards Duvan and Tolley, where we had a good numbers, a good chance of winning that ball back.
Yeah, good luck winning a header against especially Tolley, but also Duvan.
So he aims for the right back, Joel Sangwa, who kind of plays center back for them as well, and it's obviously not the best ball in the world. Taylor's able to get to it first. This isn't the first time this has happened in that game. Taylor's been able to, and even Jesus had won a couple balls like that, and Taylor's able to win it. It drops towards Callum, and Callum's got 3 defenders nearby, kind of one on his back. One that's I think the winger, probably Bolaños, towards Huntsville's their attacking goal, and then the right back that Taylor was able to beat to the ball, and Callum just turns downfield and just takes advantage of the space, takes a couple dribbles, and then plays a perfect ball in behind for McGrath, who's making a run, seeing the space, and the Huntsville keeper slips, is able to recover and get back into position, but he's going down for a shot attempt. He's not going to stay up and wait. And Alex knows it too, and just kind of chips it over him right into the side netting. In 86th minute, it's 1-0, and there's obviously a lot of work to do there.
It's not really a chip; it's a shot. It's
not a pure chip, but he does lift it over him with some
barely. It's a pretty hard
with some
shot.
velocity.
It's a pretty hard shot. Yeah, I mean the goal is very good. I want to pull us back a second to a question that Bill and Ross both asked. So, what were your thoughts on Jude's debut? Did he exceed your expectations for his first minutes with us? What are you kind of thinking? And then it says, although in limited time, what do you think that Jude brings that's different? Kind of two sides of the same coin.
I think Jude's biggest quality is going to be in ball recovery and possession retention. If you think about it, Rod loves possession, and Rod loves winning the ball back so you can have the ball again. And then do things with the ball, but like he wants the ball, and if you don't have the ball, he wants to win the ball back. I think Jude is the ideal type of 6 for Rod because it allows him to play You need to be an athlete, a really good athlete to play the 6, and in this system. And Jude is that. He's also quite good on the ball, clearly, and it will allow us to play with 2 10s, which means we can keep more numbers closer to the box we are attacking. And in doing so, that means that the 6 has to do a lot of things, has to be athletic, has to be able to cover for players, has to know when to make a challenge and when to slow the play down to get numbers back. And has to be able to keep possession and recycle the ball. And, I don't know if Jude's the type of player that is going to be able to play line splitting passes. Totally and Duvan both can, so it's like not the end of the world if he can't. But like you sometimes need a guy that can kind of end up being. I think Jude's going to end up being like kind of like a player that we rely on incredibly hard in terms of in terms of his defending and recovery. But he's also going to turn into a bit of a metronome for us, I have a feeling. And you saw that a little bit in this game. Sometimes it was Andres Aranzuzu that was kind of doing the thing, but also a lot of times it was Jude. And that'll be interesting to watch. I thought he had a good game. I thought you could tell that it was his first game minutes in quite some time. I'm not terribly surprised that he was pulled. And Andres was slotted back into the 6. But I thought he overall.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was minutes limited.
I wouldn't be surprised either, especially because there's just a difference between being fit and obviously he came in fit, right? There's a difference between being fit and then being game sharp.
Bingo.
And
game fit.
Yeah. So, I think he's a good player. I think he's going to do a lot for us.
I do too. I think he's just going to be a younger Richard Dixon in a lot of ways. Win a lot of balls, retain possession, do a lot of dirty work, do some good passing. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I think you saw in some of his ball recoveries how special he can be. But
yeah. And he had a couple bad giveaways as well.
I didn't see any of those.
Which, like, it happens like in your first game with the new teammates and not being 100% match sharp. Like it's not terribly surprising in a system where you play on the ground a lot. So yeah. What's next? Oh, let's talk about
the lineup. We haven't talked about our lineup yet.
That's true. We haven't. Before we do the lineup, like I just want to finish the game real quick because as soon as we scored, Huntsville kicks off.
Squeaky bum time.
They push up immediately. They push the right back up into basically becoming a 10 to add an extra number in the middle of the field, which when they played out wide, it caused us to be a little nervy at the back. Duvan via Faramina. My God.
He had
2 massive clearances off the line.
And if you want to see those, you go to MLS Next Pro's YouTube. You can see the short of his double save there.
Yeah, it's
which I did not see in live time.
I saw it in live time. It was terrifying. It was 100% terrifying. And look, that's the most dangerous opportunity defensively for a team is just after you score.
Mm-hmm.
And Huntsville pushed numbers forward big time. I don't know if we had enough numbers back at that moment, but it happened very, very quick. And I think Milo goes to win a ball and misses. And that kind of creates the free chance early, which beats Antoine. He had to cover the near post. But luckily, in those kind of moments, like center back usually drops in just to cover one side. Unbelievable clearances. And that was really there was
basically
one.
The ball gets curled to his side. He deflects it. It actually bounces back to the same guy who hits it again to this basically the same spot, and he saves it again.
Yeah, it was great. And that was really the outside of the new, I think it was the new Kenyan midfielder who was deputizing at center back
for Nashville too.
For Huntsville, with a great shot from outside the box, like kind of skipping against the wet turf. Jean makes an unbelievable save, and outside of like those kind of moments, that was really it for Huntsville on the day. And it's just one of those things where they couldn't convert their chances. Not because, like they had a couple off target and other things like that. Nothing crazy though. Those were the big moments. And our players were able to make the plays. And on the offensive end, we took that one chance, the one big chance we had, took it well. And that's the margins in a relatively low XG kind of game. Sometimes it'd be like that.
Yes, it is. Matthew, take me through the lineup because there was some new players. Two players made their season debut, and some unexpected things I would not have predicted.
So Jean-Antoine comes into goal to start. This is his first appearance on the season.
Welcome back, John.
Welcome back from injury.
So happy that you have recovered from your injury, man. It was a long recovery process. So glad to see him healthy.
Yeah. Milo Garvanyan, he's closed out a couple of games at right back this year.
He started and went 90 at right back.
Started and went 90 at right back.
I would not have predicted that.
Anatoly and Duvan, your center backs. Joseph Perez at left back. Jude Arthur got the start in his debut for CFC at the 6. Andres and Alex were your two kind of 8/10s. Jalen James maintained his place in the team after scoring 3 goals against Inter Miami.
Yeah, I'd say that one was about the only thing I had written in Sharpie. You can't score 3. You can't score a hat trick and come as long as you're healthy and not start the next game.
Jesus Ibarra got the start at left wing in place of Taylor Gray.
Bit of a surprise there.
And then Medi starting at the striker position. Your subs in this game were Callum Watson and Taylor Gray replacing Jude Arthur and Jesus Ibarra. That was in the 68th minute. Carlos Rivas subbed in for Medi in the 76th minute. And then pretty late into stoppage time, maybe halfway through or so, Farid Sarsar subs in for Jalen James to just add a little bit more solidity at the back.
Completely missed this and didn't see anything.
And it really helped. It really calmed things down.
First game in a while, we haven't seen Ethan Corrin at striker or winger.
Yeah, but it's honestly not surprising because they made the Carlos sub. You already made the Taylor Gray sub, and then you're subbing on a center back for.
One could argue you were subbing on a center back either way.
True. So that's kind of the game. Before we get into anything else in some of our mailbag, you want to just have some random thoughts from the weekend?
Yep, Huntsville supporters were nice. We had less interaction with them, but that's to be expected. Not taking anything away from that. But I saw a couple of them, talked to a couple of them. That was nice. When you play each other on a game, it's different than you just see each other at the game.
One of them sent me the parking link the night before, so that people that wanted to prepay for parking or whatever, like, thank you, Tyler. That was awesome of you.
I hope he's not listening. It'd be silly. I love they had a little tailgate going on. It looked like it was popping. I did not go over there. I was busy with our stuff and going to back 40 and getting stuff set up and whatever else. So Huntsville ops were good. Appreciate the hospitality. Patrick, if you're listening to this, don't do that. You're getting dumber by listening to this. Don't listen to us two idiots talking about this. But I appreciate it. Something I didn't think I'd have to appreciate, but I do based on some recent experiences, is being on time for setup. That was nice. We got to set everything up in a timely fashion, easy, smooth. They had a dedicated section for us, which was genuinely very nice. We've gone away in this league and others, and having a dedicated section with a dedicated ticketing link that actually saved us a couple bucks was just a really nice gesture. And there were some like big club things on display on the operational side in a good way. A lot of times it's been in a bad way, right? Like the original rules we were given and what we were allowed to bring and whatever else, which was we've evolved since then with our relationship with them. So I don't want to go in the past. But yeah, happy about that. We had a separate gate. This was one of the coolest things. They had a separate gate for us to come in. Just nice. Like they didn't have to do that, but opening up a separate gate for us was super dope. And look, they adjusted our original rules and our original mandate to adjust for letting us have some additional drums and whatever else. So that was great. There was a security guy. We had a full-time security guy, and he was not a rent-a-cop. Like, he didn't suck. And I'm saying that because most of the time when you get a dedicated security person in your section, they suck, and they're there to essentially harass you. I've been through that a bunch of times. This guy was not. He was just there if anything happened and was very cool. And I feel sorry for his eardrums because he was right in front of us the whole time. But I just really appreciate the professionalism shown in that bit of it, right? It sucks there was no horns and we only had small flags. And those are annoying, but I hope we can work on those things going forward. And obviously I hope that this relationship between us and our closest other team, because Kennesaw is not a team, whatever they are, between us and Nashville too has been nice. The backline drummers came down. I thought that was adorable. They said they didn't know we were going to be there, but I find that hard to believe. I think they wanted to come guard their turf, and that was adorable. Back 40 was very expensive, but very fun for the pregame, which we did when we came down here in the spring. So, yeah, shout out to them. That was cool. Maybe we'll tailgate next time. If any Huntsville supporters hear this and want us to tailgate with you, I am not trying to impose that on you. That is the thing that we have always done is tailgated and invited opposing supporters, but that doesn't mean that everybody does that. So I'm genuinely not putting that on any, but if it is a thing you guys want to do, I think that would be cool if that's something they're open to. If not, back 40 was dope. We got flipped off, which I missed several times, including by people in the little chair section on the field, which is fun. You know you're doing a good job when you're getting fans of another team who are not used to seeing other supporters. This happens at every game. They're flipping you off. They're giving you dirty looks. They're whatever. And so that was a good sign. And some people said they got flipped off when they went to the bathroom, which is fun. That's good. That's good vibes. And happy birthday, Vic. Got you 3 points for your birthday. That's your gift from CFC. Alex is very good at soccer. That was a takeaway I had. Mid-block suck. I dislike playing against Michigan Stars incarnate, but we got it done, so that was good. And then look, Huntsville's going to be better now that they fired Budget Harry Kane, and I don't like that. I liked it when they were trying to do whatever they were trying to do. I don't know what it was. It didn't make sense, and they were bad. And I think now that it looks like they're playing, and this is one game sample size, right? But you and I both noticed it. They went from playing like the normal MLS Next Pro, like expansive, we're preparing players for pro, to playing a mid-block. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's coincidence at all. Especially with how their parent team, Nashville 1, plays.
Yeah,
so Nashville 2 is going to play like Nashville 1 plays in an ideal world. And I think you saw that transition immediately. Whatever this new coaching staff's doing.
Incredibly Gary Ball. And that's obviously a choice that the footballing department at Nashville and by extension Huntsville has made. It was very clear that that's what they were.
All the footballing decisions are getting made in Nashville.
That's very clear what they were trying to do.
That's a feature, not a bug.
And look, that's going to be an interesting one. It's clear that results have not been good enough for them over the past year and I guess a quarter now. And they're making this change. It seems intentionally. I think if you look at, especially if you look at
lawnmower.
If you look at XG,
I don't know if listeners can hear that, but sorry if you can. Right outside my window.
If you look at XG from last season, taking this season a little bit out of it, it feels like they were a little hard done by results last year. But like, how long do you wait for the math to start mathing in your direction, or do you make a change? Teams go through this all the time. I do think it's interesting that Nashville as an organization is doubling down with Huntsville on Gary Ball, because Nashville, since the Leagues Cup final, where they lost on penalties to Messi's Inter Miami, has not been good or winning really hardly at all. And you've got some like serious discontent among the fan base, where and like fan bases go through revolutions, right? And this is all outsider perspective, but you've got fan bases sometimes that they get used to winning, and they put up with like just being, playing like the freaking Michigan Stars as long as they're winning. And when you stop winning, you become a losing team and also not entertaining. And there's discontent in Nashville.
It's not even about being entertaining. It's just about winning.
Right.
When you stop
nobody
winning,
cares. Nobody cares unless
nobody
you win.
cares. And even then, like, there's very few soccer purists out there. There's very few idiots like you and I that are going to be like, trust the Rod test, which you and I both believe fervently. But trust the Rod test only works if you eventually start winning and if you're going to win. And by the way, we trust the Rod test in part because we've seen how it leads to winning.
Right.
Gary Ball can lead to winning. The guys won an MLS Cup. They've made the playoffs pretty regular.
I think they made the playoffs every year that they've been an MLS team. Look, they finished third not very long ago in the Eastern Conference.
Mixie.
They won, I think, 2 playoff games in. Boy, they won 2 playoff games, I think, in their first year in existence in that shorter 2020 season. But they were after the Leagues Cup final. They were listless the last part of the year. Lost a playoff game. Weren't even close to being in it. And
have we talked about on this podcast how I just discovered that Gary Smith and Gary Smith's English or American?
He's English.
Okay. I thought that
surely.
I don't know. I thought I learned that Pittsburgh's coach was American.
You didn't know that Bob Lilly was American?
I learned that when you and I were chatting with Marcus. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's English.
Okay. I always just assumed because they played terrible regressive soccer that he was English like Gary Smith. And I think that the Gary Ball thing is going to last because he's won an MLS Cup. I mean, he could get fired. It's certainly possible. But I think his style carries over in knockout tournaments. And they're going to ride that as long as they can because he's a proven winner, quote unquote, in MLS. Yeah. And here's what I hate about this. And I know what you talked about really briefly earlier, but like I do believe their roster is set up. And you and I talked about when you talk a little bit as we're at 35 minutes. So we essentially have another, I guess, 25 minutes if we want to record for. Yep. Well, really, yeah, we have like 23 minutes, so we should stop recording. But you and I both saw what they did the same way, meaning we saw like what they did. We both agree with the motivations. You think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. So I think we should talk through that maybe a little bit real quick and then hit these mailbags. But basically, instead of setting up in a, like we said, expansive MLS Next Pro, play out of the back, make mistakes, it's okay, we're training players to be better pros, they set up in a way that is a little bit like, hey, we want you to play the way the first team plays so that if we plug you into the first team, you know how to play.
Which is how I think MLS Next Pro should be used, by the way.
I think most people agree that all youth teams should be structured that way. Barcelona has made that popular. And you see it where players come out of La Masia and they play for Barcelona and they're wonder kids and they go somewhere else and they're just okay because the system does elevate, right?
Yeah.
But I think this, and I also think their roster is built to be good in this way. I think a lot of their like more mature attacking quality is like older and better suited to like do a little bit of Jose Mourinho. Like the 7 of you have to stay back, but the 4 of you have freedom to do what you want. Like I think they're a little better suited to that. So talk me through basically how they set up and then how you saw it and why you think it's a bad idea. And then I'll, I guess, tell you why I think it was a good idea.
I mean, they roughly played a 4-2-3-1, which is kind of what they played all season, and it's fairly similar, I think, to broadly speaking.
And by the way, formation matters less than style. Formation also matters, but you do see a lot of youth teams that play the same style as the parent team, but they might play it slightly differently because instead of having wingers, they have wide forwards or whatever else on their roster.
I also think it's Huntsville against us this weekend. By the way, it's
really hard to drink tea with no feeling in your mouth.
They're going through a little thing right now. Forster Adagio, the number 9 against us at
Thank
Philly
God
Stadium.
he wasn't here.
He's hurt.
He's fucking terrifying. He's so good.
Rubens Passius out of Forge from the Canadian Premier League. He's still not made an appearance yet.
Who?
Rubens Passius.
Never heard of him.
Of course not, because I'm a nerd and you're only slightly less of one.
No, I just don't care about the Canadian Premier League.
I think it's a great league. You should watch it. Both of those 9s, unavailable. Adam Sipic, the 18-year-old,
came off the bench. He is good.
Came off the bench. He got a red card in
interesting
2 games ago, and MLS Next Pro actually got rid of the you serve a suspension against the same team you got a red card against rule.
Explain the prior rule and then explain the rule as it is now. Just real quick, because we had talked about some rules that were different. This is one of the rules that was different.
In the first couple years of MLS Next Pro, a player who got a red card let's say Columbus is playing Toronto. A Columbus player gets a red card. They would be ineligible to play against the next time they played Toronto.
Unless they weren't playing them again that season, and then it was the following game. I'm sure on that.
Okay, cool. Great.
So basically, you couldn't skip a season. But if you were playing them later that season, you served that suspension against the team that you committed the red card against.
Yeah. The idea behind that was to limit a retaliation type environment, which is interesting. And of course, Next Pro trialed that. They have since got rid of that rule, and this year it's just you serve the red card in the next game, which is how it is across the world. So Sibic got a red card against Miami, and then was unavailable for their next game, which I think was Crown Legacy the weekend before, and then came off the bench against us instead of going right back into the starting lineup. What that did was, for whatever reason, they're not playing Cerritos at all. But instead they're playing I think he's 18 years old. Maximus Eck, whose family hung out with us at the tailgate.
My guy.
Last month.
That's the family that kept trying to give beer to the friends who were 18 because they look like they're 25. And Dad kept laughing at me and taking the beers and drinking them. Essentially, he was like, "No, they can't have one, but I guess I would take one or whatever." They were very cool, very nice. And yeah, they were dope, and I liked that kid because of how cool his family was.
So he's an interesting player.
He's also a good player. He had the assist, the back heel assist.
Yeah, he's a good player. Can play wing, can play underneath the 9, can play a little bit of the 9.
He started at the 9.
He started at the 9 in this game. I don't know if that's his best position. I don't really know enough to know.
He's a 10. When I've watched Huntsville's other games and talking to his dad,
he's a 10?
So his dad said he's a 10.
Okay.
Can play on the wing, can play a little bit up top, but he's a 10. And then I saw him play on the wing. I saw him play a little bit up top, and I've seen him get in those 10 spaces, and he is for sure better in those 10 spaces. From my limited viewing of like 4 games of theirs or whatever.
They played a couple guys who I don't really know very well as the 10 and as their left winger. But like you've got Bolaños, who is
very good
in his second year with Huntsville now. Very good player.
Like him a lot.
He had a nice couple years for Richmond before coming to Huntsville. Michael Creek, who's like 23 out of University of Kentucky. He was in center midfield. Isaiah Johnston in central midfield as well. He came from the Canadian Premier League. And so like they've got, some experienced players. Their defenders were pretty young. The 2 center backs, I think, were both 17. Cicerone, the left back, is 20. Isaiah Jones, the right back, he's like 16. They replaced him for a more experienced player midway through the second half. They've got some really good players, and I think they've got enough quality to play in possession. I really do. Maybe the reason why you don't is because they seem to want to play 2 17-year-olds at center back, and that requires 17-year-olds to be making really good decisions in possession all the time.
Isaiah Jones is 17.
Okay.
And he was 17 February 7, 2024, so I don't know when he turns 18, but he was signed when he was 17.
Got it. Okay. And, but like they also have some injuries. And a lot of teams go through injury problems, right? But like they're probably usual starting left back, unless he's just going to be a full-time Nashville player now. Still injured. I don't think he's featured at all this year. He's
18 now, by the way.
We talked about the forwards not being available. So they've got really good personnel. They might do less with more.
He turned 18
more than
April.
Anybody else in the league.
He turned April 8. He turned 18.
Okay.
FYI.
Yeah, they might do less with more than anyone in the league. And that's I guess that's why you make a coaching change.
Hang on. Their forward line is Nashville Nashville players that are in the supplemental. Like, I don't see how you say that the Huntsville roster does less than anybody else.
Well, they have 3 points. So
I mean, are you saying they do less with more?
I'm saying they do less with more than maybe anybody else in the league.
I thought you were saying the opposite. They were overachieving based on what they were getting. Okay, now we're good. Okay,
No,
sorry. I completely misunderstood what you said, and I was like, excuse me?
That's a really good collection of players. Like, they should be better than they are.
Same page. Okay, sorry.
And the fact that we have 5 of 6 points off of them in these first 2 games, when we're not who... I mean, like, we're more who we are, who we will be. In that first game a month ago, we were nowhere near what we even are now. And they've really got to figure things out down there. Because I don't think they can't miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. Not with that group. And maybe here's a larger thing. That might be trickling down from Nashville. I mean, both of these teams are in 14th place in the Eastern Conference. Like, there may actually be problems in the footballing department in Nashville. And if that's the case...
Long may it continue.
If that's the case, like, that's a recipe for a lot of people getting fired in November. So it'll be interesting to watch. I think they'll be a lot better when we go down there in August. I really do.
So I think
we'll be better, too, to be clear.
I think they're being smart by protecting the young players who they probably have to start, using the 2 more experienced midfielders, by playing in a way which eventually is going to let you do the Jose Mourinho thing, which is where you give your good attackers freedom and no one else has any freedom, playing a mid-block. Like, I think that's going to work out better for how their talent is situated, and I think that's going to get them more wins in MLS Next Pro, in part because there's not a lot of teams... I don't think they're set up to play expansive soccer necessarily, and there's not a lot of teams playing in this way, and I think that they will catch a lot of teams by surprise.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Huntsville's going to go on a run here at some point, and I think that they will finish up. I don't think they're going to finish 14th, and please, I hope they finish 14th. Please, soccer gods. But I don't think they're going to.
Before we go into the mailbag, you touched on it, but I just also want to give a big shout out to Patrick, who's the stadium manager at Huntsville. Extremely good to work with. Yes, I'm giving you a reference right now. Like, seriously, I can't say enough about the professionalism, the communication, which is maybe the most important thing. Like, yes, I want horns. Maybe
I didn't like cutting a hole in my drum.
Let's fix the rule for next year, and maybe we can get some bigger flags in the future. But like, the fact that there's communication at all.
Yes.
To try to make things a good experience for everybody.
Much appreciated.
It's just fantastic. And I can't say enough. And it's so different than like friggin' Kennesaw this week, who I've no communication whatsoever with. So
Yep. For sure.
Shout out.
I agree completely. All right, let's just blow through these, buddy. How would y'all, and I've looked up and gotten some things for things. Vic asked, what would y'all ballpark our decibels at for Huntsville? And I have no fucking clue, so I went to the internet for this.
I know that my watch notified me a bunch of times
that you were in a loud environment.
Yeah, I mean, like we were definitely over. Like, it says 110 here,
and you were behind the drums, not in front of them.
Yeah, we were at. This says 110 for nightclubs and sporting events.
We were far above that.
I was behind the drums, and mine was like, it crested 100 several times. I don't know, like, when my watch.
What does it tell? What is the trigger for your watch? Is it 100?
Sometimes 90, sometimes 100. I've never seen it go higher. But I also wasn't really paying attention. I just like occasionally saw it. Was like, oh,
so
yeah.
it'll literally measure on your watch how many decibels it is right now.
It just says something to the effect of a notification for a loud environment.
Yeah,
decibels have whatever. Like,
interesting. So 110 is nightclubs. By the way, every 10 decibels it doubles your perceived loudness. 110 is nightclubs and sporting events. 120 is thunder, concerts, or a jet plane taking off. 130 is jackhammers and ambulances. 140 is fireworks or gunshots. I would genuinely say we were definitely at times in the 130s. There's no way we weren't. Now, I don't know how that carries out. Like, I don't know. But standing right in front of those drums, I mean, you're screaming at the top of your lungs at the person next to you. Like, I've run a jackhammer before. It was as loud as a jackhammer. It's as loud as one of the but I don't know that we were sustained 130.
Probably not.
Also, I just have no idea. All I know is that what I've been told is that you couldn't hear anybody else on the stream except for us. And I tell you what, I couldn't hear the Huntsville or Nashville supporters. So
I don't know.
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. What's your number one expectation for Kennesaw, Matthew?
3 points. That's a game we should win.
I think this is trap game written all over it.
I don't disagree with you, by the way.
I just want 3 points. I don't care how it happens.
But that's a game we should. That's a game we should be able to win.
This is a trap game, and I'm very worried about it. But 3 points, and I don't care how it happens. Ugly, whatever. It's short rest, whatever. I need each of y'all. Let's do this quick because this is a good one. I need y'all to build me your dream cheat big breakfast meal. This is also from Vic. And so was the last one.
Ham, sausage, bacon, omelet with spinach, tomato, onion. Throw peppers in, why not? Topped with cheese. Definitely grits, probably with some cheese. If we're cheating, you got to throw some hash browns in there too.
Love it.
Why not? And I was thinking about either between Texas. No, but we're not going to do Texas. We're going to do cinnamon raisin toast with butter.
Let's go. All right.
And a bottle of champagne and a waft of orange juice and a cup of coffee.
Hell yeah. So a shot of orange juice into an entire pitcher of champagne.
Yeah.
I love this. I'm going to say I'm at Waffle House just because that's going to be most of the food here. And it's going to be 3 eggs scrambled with cheese in the way that only Waffle House does with the fluffy, cheesy, runny eggs. They're so good. It's going to be a double order of hash browns, scattered, triple covered, smothered, diced, and capped. That's how I like my hash browns. But instead of a waffle, I'm getting Aretha Frankenstein's pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream.
Okay.
And then I'm getting, before the serial killer started sucking, I'm getting a serial killer to add to that from, what are they called? The restaurant over there on East Main Street. Feed. Yeah. So Feed, like they're just, I don't know why, but they're just less good now, but they've done some really good ones in the past. And the serial killer is basically milk that's had the cereal in it. And then you make a White Russian out of that milk. And it's so good. So that would be my ideal, like random giant cheat. And if I'm going to, there's a lot of other ways I could go, but that would be the decadent cheat meal for sure. Cheat breakfast. Thanks, Vic. Matthew, we already did Jude's debut, so we'll skip through that one. Why did this Huntsville team give us so much trouble, and what did they do tactically to give us that trouble? And that's from Justin.
It's just the mid block. They're basically the only ones in the league now that are going to play a mid block, and try to make it tough to pass through. They pressed for about 45 seconds total because we just played through them.
We absolutely,
which created.
I wish they would have kept pressing. That would have been nice.
Which created numbers and space for us. So they cut that out smartly. And look, I actually think this is a good development for the league as a whole.
I agree,
because you saw this in the Open Cup a little bit. A lot of these MLS Next Pro teams they don't get a lot of experience playing against regimented defenses, and they need that ability to play through, to learn how to play through, to kind of embrace the grind and embrace the suck a little bit. And I think that will pay dividends for some of these players long term. And just a little bit of variety is good for the league.
By the way, I don't know if that question came from Ross or from Justin, so sorry if I took out somebody's credit there. All right, these are actually just some yes or no's. Are we a team that rotates now?
I think I can't answer that question until after the Kennesaw United and Carolina Core matches.
I can't tell you until we're midway through the season, but for now we are. But don't forget, Rod rotated a lot when he had numbers early on last season, but then players separated themselves. And we lost players to injury, so I just don't know. Are we the baddies?
Almost certainly.
Are we the baddies?
We drowned out Huntsville in their own stadium. Yeah, we're probably the baddies now.
I don't even know what the baddies are. Should Huntsville feel shame that you can only hear us during the entire broadcast?
No, we do this to a lot of people. Like, their supporters group, like nice people, whatever. Like, it's year 2 for them. We were that size year 2. Like, it's no big deal. Like, there's no shame at all.
Even with the president of the back line and 3 giant drums from Nashville?
Cool. Whatever.
Never heard them.
Like, we've done this to everybody in our existence. Like, there's a reason why Nashville's not inspiring Chattanooga to have a team. Like,
it's a reason Chattanooga inspired Nashville.
And Atlanta and everybody. Like, no, we've done this to everybody.
One more from Ross. Should pineapple be in beer?
It's an interesting question. I mean, like, it is the high noon flavor. So
I was going to go the same direction. So basically, if I would change that to, sure, beer, pineapple is good in beer also, but I think you should just take some water and a spritz of bubbles and some alcohol and then a hint of pineapple. That's how I like my pineapple.
I mean, like, are we talking about like pineapple juice, like becoming a beer mosa type situation?
Also sounds
Or are
lovely.
we talking about like just a little bit of the I don't know. Like draining a little bit of pineapple juice into a
What about
kind of like a
what about a wedge?
like a little bit of like a wedge or like a lime in a I don't know. Kind of want to try it now.
I do too. Okay, Justin says it happens a few times this year. And how do you see us managing our depth for back-to-back roadies on short rest? Do we play for 2 points? Like, what do we do?
We're not playing for 2 points, straight up. If you're playing for 2 points, then you're just playing for 1 because shootouts are lotteries, right?
Bingo.
The other thing I'd say is this is the last actual time that we're playing on short rest. This stretch of with Huntsville, then Kennesaw, then Carolina Core on the weekend. That's it. Every other game we have this season, at least in the league, we'll see if friendlies get at it or whatever. Every other game has at least 5 days rest. So,
Yeah.
I see us probably managing. We'll probably like rotate here or there a little bit.
Look,
We have the players at least right now to do it.
yeah.
So I would not be surprised. Is that the reason? I'm going to use an example here, but is that the reason why Jesus got the start on Saturday versus Huntsville and Taylor Gray came in?
I don't know.
Do we see Taylor start the next game? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. You could look at an example like a more specific example like Milo starting at right back as opposed to someone like Jesse Williams. Maybe that's part rotation. Maybe that's just tactical. Like, I don't really know. I don't have a good idea for it yet. We might have some answers on that after these next couple of games.
Yep.
The other question I think is, when is Minjay considered? When is Minjay considered, match fit yet? Because
Somebody started yelling during the game, "Is that Minjay?" And I don't know when it happened, but somebody thought Minjay subbed him.
No.
And I was looking around, I was staring, and I was staring, and I was staring, and I was staring. I never figured out who they were talking about. I think it was Callum in the end.
yeah, I don't even know if he made. I don't even know if he made the bench.
He did not. Let me give you 3 shout outs from Justin. Let's blow through our 3 key takeaways. We have about 4 minutes left. Shout outs. Duvon double save. Buddy, I could not echo that harder. Club provided the fan bus. Yes, thank you. That is the first time since 2014. Mixie. Come on, boy. I knew that was going to happen when he finally looked out the window and realized there was a lawnmower out front. Mixie, relax. Okay. Club provided the fan bus. That's the first time they've subsidized or pitched in. Toby. Sorry, listeners and viewers. I know this isn't fun. So it's the first time since 2014 they've provided or pitched in on it. We provided a bunch of buses, actually did a bunch of buses ourselves between then and now. And it's been a couple years since we've been doing them. But yeah, it was really cool. I'm not shitting on the club. I'm just saying it's a new thing. It came as a surprise, came out of nowhere. Like I thought it was really, really cool. Thank you. Big thank you. I'll be on the one to Kennesaw. Can't wait. Seriously, just nothing but positive vibes there. And then another shout out from Justin. Callum ball into Alex. It was a beautiful ball, perfectly weighted, and Alex absolutely finished it perfectly. So yeah, I agree with that one. That is a wonderful one. Matthew, take me through your 3 key takeaways.
Takeaway number 1 is grind it out. It's so important if you're a team that wants to win playoff games. That you have to be able to grind results. Mm-hmm. And I think that ultimately will separate teams, and not just really in the league per se, but like in playoff season. You got to be able to grind out results. You got to be able to grind out a victory. You got to be able to ride your luck a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then when you get lucky, make sure that you don't give an opportunity for the luck to go another way. Mm-hmm. And we actually did that a little bit in stoppage time. There were 2 periods of play in that 10 minutes of stoppage where we were able to control some possession for a little while. And especially right at the end, we were able to string maybe 4, 5, 6 passes together and then dump the ball downfield. And that was enough to kill the game. Referee blew final whistle. Super, super important.
Toby.
And that I think is going to help us a lot. Because just a more experienced team should, in theory, be able to grind out results a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Kind of dovetailing straight in, 3 points. I don't think there's really a lot you can take away from this one game individually. There wasn't a lot in the game. The XG's, right at 1, maybe below 1, a little bit above. Like there's just not a lot created on either side. We had, we took one of our chances. We were able to stop them from converting theirs. Like that's the difference. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. And a lot of this game just came down to we were playing possession versus a mid block, and then you get the game state at the end for Huntsville to push. That's really it. My third, I said it a little earlier, 12 points out of 15 is crazy good, especially for where we thought we were going to be and where we honestly are and were. It's massive. I think it's a great platform to build on. We currently sit second in the Eastern Conference. We have a chance to go top on Wednesday versus Kennesaw. Just really, really, really good opportunity. And you've got, in addition to Kennesaw and Carolina Core, who are both, one's like 13th, one's like 15th in the Eastern Conference.
Long may it continue.
Like if we can squirrel away 9 points, like winning each of these games, which is not going to be easy, by the way. Like, all these teams can play a little bit, but if you can pull that off, 18 points out of 21, you're a quarter of the way through the season. Be huge. Be huge.
Be a dream
for this, honestly. For this group.
Honestly, be a dream. All right. My first one, local road games are fun. We haven't had those in a while. It's really nice to have them back. It's nothing like winning on the road. Like, fuck Nashville, fuck Huntsville, like that. Those vibes, like being so like in somebody else's house, like it's so good, man. It's so good. Let's do it again on Wednesday. Let's celebrate at Kennesaw. Like, let's get 3 more. The fullbacks looked again to overlap, and they looked to overlap against the mid block, which was tough. But I saw some different stuff from how we've built the last year and the first few games this year. So I saw some of that second preseason. I don't think last week was a fluke on how the fullbacks are playing. I'm not saying it was exactly the same, but there was some stuff there that we hadn't seen before. So I was very happy. And look, just Nashville 2 defended a lot better than Miami did. Yeah. And that made it difficult. The spine is going to be key. That's my third point here. Tolly and Jude as well, but especially Jean and Juve in this game were massive to keep them off the board, because this game very easily could have ended 1-1 if not for those 2 guys being just in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing in the big moments. And sometimes it's not about what you create or how you defend for the whole game. It's what you do in the key moment. And they came through big. And I think, as I said last week, we're going to need our spine as time goes on to be the thing that carries us through and keeps us getting these wins. And the bonuses vibes were immaculate, man. You felt how much that meant to everybody, from seeing AB after the game, from Davis, from Rod, from the team when they came and celebrated, to the supporters. Like, you could just feel how big this was and how much it meant. And man, the vibes were absolutely immaculate. And it was a perfect weekend. And I really want to repeat this, obviously, on Wednesday, but I want to repeat this going forward in August against Huntsville. And want to keep doing it on the road as we get hopefully more teams in this league that are close, and maybe at Carolina. And it's just that there's special moments made, special connections made, and special memories made when you do something on the road. And look, home wins are good, but road wins are arguably better.
Podcast notes: do not expect an episode after Kennesaw midweek. We'll probably do a double review.
Yep.
After the 2 games early next week, so look out for that. And hopefully we'll start getting some player interviews going here as all the schedules start to wane slightly.
As our lives get a little less complicated. Thank you for listening. We'll catch up with you soon. Peace.